Alright, let's see. Crash course, huh? Let's see, let's do a rundown. Faa-san Crash Course hard mode. Like the same things that I talked about or explained to new players, the new guys who come into the run with us and shit. Okay, number 1, don't die. Okay, memes aside though, that is not exactly a meme though, right? You're not supposed to die. But anyway, hey yo, how's it going, boys? What is up? Sora's back once again, and I guess we're gonna do a crash course on Faa-san hard mode. I guess, yeah. I guess we're gonna do a quick rundown, I suppose. I know I did this a while ago, but I kind of wanted to make a little bit more generic and just so it's simple enough for people to understand. First and foremost, you should just look at the wiki's page for this. I'll link it in the description and some shit. But first and foremost, for every single element, you need to have more than 30,000 HP. If you do not have more than 30,000 HP, you should sub them with your R characters. Make sure you have the same elements so you can get the stupid trophy or some shit, okay? Which does not include Lyria and Cat. You need to have the actual character element thingy, blah blah blah. Okay, so yeah, number 1, don't die. Not joking. If you, that's the number 1 rule, because when this thing comes up at 70, I'll explain a little bit more later. But like, you really do not want to die. If your characters are already like close to dying, and you already know for a fact like any form of like, if you take an extra turn or whatever, and you're going to die, I suggest you to just stay behind and just don't do anything, because it's a lot better for you to do that than you taking the death, and then it makes it even harder for everyone else to do anything else. So that's number 1. So number 2, the next one is to never ever let the main body, which is Faa-san, and the wing to get full diamonds. Never ever let both of them get the full diamonds, because if they do, Mr. Faa-san will do Paradise Lost, and if you can't take Paradise Lost, then you are fucked. Because if you do not have like, you know, Typhoon or whatever, then you're pretty much fucked basically. Or you just ask someone to gravity or some shit basically. Or if you can't delay even, yeah, that's even worse. So yeah, never ever let them to do that. So one of the strats that this applies to every single element, like one of the strats that we always tend to do, or myself and probably some other players, at the start of the fight, you never want to delay, especially like the main body, because if you didn't know, the main body is the one that is actually doing all the crazy amount of Ogis and shit, right? It's only the wings that does like certain stuff, which is very like 2 or 3 different Ogis or whatever. So it's not really that crazy. So you really do not want to delay the main body at all. The first strat you want to do is that you want to let the main body Ogi at least once. Yeah, just let it Ogi once. So it's either you take Phosphorus or Iblis. I'll go into that later, okay? So you just let it Ogi once, be it whatever Ogi is that from the main body. Just let it Ogi once. Once he does that, you can start to slowly go into the whole delaying the main body or whatever shit. And same goes for the wing. You want to let the wing Ogi once as fast as possible, right? Just so he can trigger the whatever Mars thingy that allows the Faa-san to not have the wing buff anymore. So what that does is that it removes this thing, which is whatever this wing buff is. What that does is basically he will not be capped on damage. So once he does that, he will never basically like force your whole party to only cap at like say 50,000 damage or some shit. Yeah. So once this is gone, you can actually do damage to him. That's one of the few important points. So when it comes to triggers and stuff, I'm gonna go like one by one, I suppose, just to ease up your mind. So the first thing, because this is also, before I go any further, this is non-cheese way, okay? This has nothing to do with cheesing stuff. This is more to normal stuff where you try to clear all the labors in with your whole group or whatever shit. This is to clear all the goddamn labors, okay? This is non-cheese. If you're looking for cheese, you can go fuck off, because I honestly don't give a shit about you. First thing first, you definitely want to aim at the wing first. So the first thing you want to do is to get it down to either to 70 or to 50. There's two parts that you want to focus on, which is to get it down to all the way down to 50. So first thing you want to go to 70, because what happens is that between 100% on the wing, from 100% to 70, it will do his first trigger. Basically what it does is that it will trigger this Sephiroth thing, and it will it will give this grand finale countdown. Basically what this does is that it's the reason timer. Well, the thing that literally kills off your entire team if, well, 6 characters in total, as in your whole party, raid party, 6 characters total dies, and yeah, basically it's the end already, because you literally cast the end. the trigger is cast the end. What happens is the end of the raid already, so that's pretty much that. So the first thing, like, once it reaches there, it will remove all debuffs on the wings and Faa-san himself, and then what happens is that you have to start debuffing again and all that shit. Okay, so in between those two, I'm assuming you should have probably decent amount of DPS by then, right? Because you definitely want to at least get 10 million damage and shit for, like, you know, the labors and stuff. Okay, so before that, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that this thing, which is called the Evangelist Blade, if you're wondering what the hell it does, you just read all this, okay? So in other words, the higher it goes, the more dangerous he becomes. Yeah, and you really do not want him to be like on 3 or like 4 or 5. 5 is like, okay, you're pretty much fucked. Especially if you do not have any dispels. So that's why having dispels is very, very important in this raid. Because what exactly you're doing is that you're just dispelling the main body, just so you don't take too much damage, basically. So number one, if you didn't know, he starts off at 1 when you start the raid. He starts off at 1, and if you guys didn't know, you can actually make him go to 0. So if he's at 1 and you dispel him, he will literally just go at 0. So he can get this Evangelist Blade every single time he does an Ogi, which also includes his whatever wing Ogi thing. So he does whatever Ogi, including the wings, he'll gain 1 or 2 stacks. This applies differently when it comes to, like, I think it's like certain trigger he does, like I think Axiom Apocalypse or something, where it allows him to get 2 stacks at once, some shit like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So this is that one thing that you really need to pay attention, probably throughout the entire raid. So yeah, first things first, when you start off the raid, you want to dispel this, you go debuff, you do your usual debuffs and all that stuff. And before you press the attack button, you need to make sure every single one of your turn, if you want to be on the safe side, you should always have Langs. If you do not have Langs, you're pretty much fucked. Unless you're like, I don't know, with 3 garrison grid or some shit, then maybe you can probably sustain. Yeah, but to be on the safe side, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably still relatively new and shit. So you want to always have Langs at every single turn. Never ever go through without Langs. If you do not have Langs, you probably have to, like, I don't know, ask someone to YOLO or some shit. But trust me, if every single one of your raid member actually goes through properly, I'm fairly certain you will not have you will not run out of Langs. If you go through properly and you don't do the whole double Langsing shit, I'm pretty sure you can. Just make sure every single one of your raid member goes through just fine, okay? Yes, the other one is that to just remind you how the triggers work in this game in general, it actually works differently in Faa compared to the likes of say Ultimate Baja Eshal, right? So like Ultimate Baja Eshal, he has some triggers. Basically what happens is that when you go through a certain trigger, like, you know, because some triggers in Faa, you have this remove all debuffs and shit, right? But like for Ultimate Baja Eshal, it basically applies that thing every single time a person goes through that trigger. But for Faa, it's different, because Faa only applies when one person goes through. basically. So you don't really have to worry whenever, like, you don't have to wait for everyone to go through, like, say the first 70% on the wing. You don't have to wait for everyone to go through to re-debuff and shit. So you don't have to do that. So basically, the first 30%, once you reach that 70, you just make sure one person goes through or some shit, and then you can just reapply debuffs, and then you should be okay. That's the first thing. The second one is basically the 50% of the wing, right? Which basically triggers this labors thingy. And if you want to know what the hell all these labors does, you just look at wiki. I'm not going to explain every single one of them to you, because this is going to be like a crash course, right? So most of the time, the fire guy will always go through this, because fire has always been known the person that does not have a lot of sustain. That's why most of the time fire always will trigger this. So basically what happens is that whoever that triggers the labors, which is hitting the wing to 50%, when triggers all this, right, basically he'll do 7 trumpets and shit. The reason is that he will never do any trigger for you. Like on the main body, he will never do any trigger to that person, because you know that person doesn't have like a lot of sustain or whatever. So usually you kind of want that person to do that, or if it doesn't really matter, you can just ask the person that is like hard carrying the raid or whatever to go through or some shit. That is one way to put it. But another thing is that you probably want to keep in mind is that if you're that fire player or whoever player that is going through this labor thing, right? If you're activating this trumpets thing, this 7 trumpets thing, you do not need a lance. If you can confirm yourself to go through this labor thing, you do not need a lance, because this thing does no damage. The only thing that does damage is basically this plain damage shit, because the labor has already been triggered. Unless you can take the whole plain damage thing, then yeah, you should probably heal yourself up or something. But keep that in mind. He doesn't do any freaking damage, so yeah, we don't really have to waste a lance for that, unless you're not confident that you can punch through that 50% thing. Then yeah, I guess you can ask someone to give you lance or some shit. But before we go through all of this 50% thing, the one thing you definitely want to keep in mind is to make sure that everybody in the raid party is ready. Because the reason why I say that is because the person that needs to be ready the most is definitely probably going to be Earth. Because Earth requires to go through the whole overchain thing. Because most of the time Earth is always doing the whole overchain thing. So the Earth guy will have to do that. Or if not, you can always ask the light guy or the, I don't know, dark guy even can do that too. But it really depends on whatever setup you're going through. So instead of me saying it like this, the Earth guy, so that's why I'm just trying to say as a whole, just make sure everybody is ready. So you kind of want to have everyone have like their wind to have their meter up, and then you have like your fire do like the Anira shit, whatever shit, to have all of those back up before you go through this 50 thing. Because there are times where you just go through and then you're not ready, and then the raid just dies out. So you don't really want to do that. So that's the one thing that you have to keep in mind. Then after 50, once the labors goes up, you just go through whatever shit. You don't really have to do all the labors on the spot. You can always do that later. And just don't be that guy that clears the labor at 10% or something. Because I've already encountered so many people that does that shit. For some reason, you only clear the labor at 10%. Like, for fuck's sake. 90% of the fucking raid is already over, and then you clear the goddamn labor. Like, for fuck's sake, don't do that, okay? just don't be that guy, okay? But the other thing is that you need to have like stern communication to your raid members. So it's like, maybe if you want to do like your labor clear or whatever shit, make sure you communicate with your crew, your whatever raid members. So if you're gonna nuke, make sure you let them know, because there are times where maybe you don't know, you over nuke or some shit, and then it just automatically triggers the main body triggers or some shit. That person's not ready, you kill him, the raid is over. You don't want that to happen, right? So communication is key, okay? And also, don't die. Okay, so that's pretty much the whole wing stuff, right? So now I'm gonna explain a little bit more stuff that you can do and don't do during like the triggers for the main body. So the first trigger on the main body, you probably want to to keep in mind is the 95 one. 95 basically what it does is that Phosphorus. So Phosphorus is also another Ogi that is the standard Ogi for the main body. The main body only does this when it's non-overdrive. So he has a trigger at 95, yes, that he does Phosphorus, but the normal Ogi also does Phosphorus if it's not overdrive. Non-overdrive, he'll do Phosphorus as well. So basically what Phosphorus does is that he does a single nuke on one character, and if it's before the 7 trumpets has been triggered, the ally with the highest attack will be targeted. So in other words, most of the time before the whole labor thing has been triggered, your MC is very likely to get attacked, because MC is always the one that has the most attack, right? Compared to the other elements. So if you're wondering how you actually check that, is basically you just go under your party, you can check here your MC, you see your MC, this is basically the attack. So if you see like compared to everyone else, you can obviously tell that MC has like the highest attack, right? So MC will always get hit no matter what, unless you're for example, if you're using like your fire team or whatever, and then you have if you ring like Esser or some shit, it's one of those special times where Esser will have way more of an attack than MC. If you're in that specific situation, then yeah, Esser will get hit instead. But this is just to let you know what exactly is the case. So yeah, then after it gets triggered, the ally with the lowest HP will be targeted. So basically, it doesn't say like your total amount of HP or your current is basically your current HP in that specific point. It will hit or aim that person. So if you have like a specific, say, something that allows to provide dodge or whatever shit to the specific target, then yeah, you put it on that target. You know, for example, like Shalim S2, for example. If you have a skill like that, you put it on that character with the lowest HP, yeah, it will get targeted. And then lastly, it will dispel every single buffs that you have on that specific target. That's what Phosphorus does. Okay, so that is Phosphorus. That's the only time you're probably going to see Phosphorus. Just non-overdrive Ogi or at 95. Okay, and the other thing I totally forgot to include is before the whole wing trigger, the labor shit, like basically like the labor stuff, all this, because I totally forgot about this, that he will do Axiom. His overdrive Ogi is Axiom. So what this does is basically a lot of fucking shit will get triggered, a lot of hits basically. You really do not want to go through this without any form of sustain, because I even tried that with my fucking Dark with Garrison and shit. Without Langs, yeah, you just die. you really don't want to do that. That's for sure. You really don't want to do that. I tried that before. It still fucking kills me. And the other thing it does is that it inflicts petrified, weakened, and slashed, and it actually goes by this arrangement as well. If you do get all three of these on a single character, right, the debuffs will be arranged in a manner. So if you get forfeited or this weakened thing, you cannot attack or you cannot cast any skills, anything, nothing. You have to get yourself clear. So one of the things that you probably want to also check is that make sure you have your whole raid party or whatever shit to have at least enough clears. Usually you kind of want to have at least three players to have clears or some shit. It helps. Trust me, it helps, because there are times where we experience like shitty ass RNG and everyone is getting debuffed to Oblivion and we can't even press that clear button. Yeah. You definitely want to get that. So basically what Slash does is that it's just a damage over time thing kind of thing. This one basically doesn't allow you to do anything. You can attack whatever. Petrified is basically you don't get any meter. So that's what it does. You only get this during overdrive in the first 50% of the wing. Once you trigger labor, this literally disappears. This never happens anymore. No, never. So what happens after that is that when you get overdrive, the Ogi will become this one. This one only applies, Axiom Apocalypse that is, it only applies if the wing is still alive. If the wing is alive, because I think it mentioned here too, right? Yeah, this one. The wing, if the wing is alive, he will do Axiom Apocalypse as is overdrive, normal overdrive Ogi. Like, this is not talking about triggers and shit. He will do this. So basically what this does, he does a 3 random element damage to random allies. Is not really just fixed on a single character. So usually if you get very unlucky, because this is actually a random element thing, so there's a chance of you getting probably crit to Oblivion as well. There's a chance of that happening. It's very unlikely, but it can happen. So you definitely do not want to have like very, very low HP for this. You kind of want to have at least, especially if you're in an element that you do not have garrison or whatever. So if you're in that position, yes, you kind of want to have at least some HP to sustain this. Normally Langs do allow you to survive this unless you get super unlucky. And the other thing is that if you do have like, say, mirror image for example, you can actually negate at least one hit. So you only take 2 hits, for example, if it just lands on one character. So it helps. Mirror image is pretty damn good for this, because this also applies to like phosphorus or whatever shit. Because this boss has a lot of like specific targeting nuke whenever that shit happens. So yeah, he has that. So that's why one of the main reasons why mirror is pretty damn cool, pretty damn good to have rather. So keep that in mind. Now that that's mostly covered, I can go on to the next trigger, which is at 85, because the main body has the main Ogis, which is at 95, 85, and 60. Okay, so 85 he does Axiom, and what happens is that he hits that thing, but it's like he hits to at lowest HP. So it basically is similar to like Axiom Apocalypse, but he's aiming only on one character. This 3 hits will land on one character. This 85 trigger, if you have like a character that, you know, like say Monkey, or like Monkey with S2 with a passive up, or like 6 when he Ogis the other self thing and he has like full hostility or whatever shit. If you have those kind of stuff, then you should be fine. Or you can just use Langs with sub with your MC. That works too. So you need to be ready for all that. So the one thing you have to keep in mind, if because this happens a lot, including myself, if this thing kills anyone, this 3-hit thing, if it kills anyone, it spreads your other allies in that party. Your other 3 characters will take 30,000 plain damage. When that happens, if you do not have 30,000 HP or higher at that point, your thing probably dies. And what happens is that it's probably going to reduce this grand finale thing. So you don't want that to happen. Okay, so that's pretty much how it is. You kind of just want to do all this. I'll go into how to negate this few triggers very shortly. So next one is at 60%. It's basically the same. The trigger for the main body at 60% is basically the same as the 85 one, but instead what it does is that it's AoE this time. Instead of picking just the one character with the lowest HP, but it's now AoE. It hits all of your party members with 3 hits. Each of them will get 3 hits. So what you usually want to do is you must have 100% damage cut, be it a combination of just elemental cut and the Langs thingy, but make sure if you want to do that, make sure you have the elemental thingy swapped as well, because it will only hit that specific element, so you can get 100% cut. You need to have 100% cut. In the usual standard way to negate this is basically you have Langs and you have Athena. And then you hopefully, or you cross with someone with Athena or some shit like that, okay? Or you just have, like I said, you have full damage cut. Like for example, if you use Europa S2, it changes everything to fire, right? Because she has a fire switch thing. And then you do that, and then you use Lily S1, because Lily S1 gives you like 70% fire cut, right? And then you use like a Bunkle or some shit, and Bunkle gives like what, 50% for the SR one. Or if you have Kaong at full moon break, that gives 60%. So you'll automatically have 100% damage cut for that one. If you have that, then you will not die. So keep in mind. Alright, so now these 3 main triggers, right, on the main body, 95, 85, and 60. These 3 main triggers, there is a way to negate this. If you're afraid to go through any of this, you can do this, or ask your other raid members to do that for you. But yeah, there is a way to negate this. So for 95 trigger, which it casts phosphorus, right? What happens is that if you want to negate this, you will wait until at 90%. So this is also similar to like the likes of Ultimate Bahaisha, where you actually wait to reach a certain point, because that thing will technically kind of overrides the one before. So yeah, if you want to negate 95, you wait for 90. But keep in mind, there are times where we are actually healing the boss, because there are some triggers that allows him to heal the boss, like this one for example. See, it heals Faa-san and the wings itself 1 million HP. So keep in mind, if you actually skip any of this trigger, the 95, 70, 85, and 60, if you skip that and suddenly someone heals it up, right? To say like, if you go skip this by going to 90, someone accidentally heals it to 91, you attack, you will get phosphorus again. Very big important rule to keep in mind if you're planning to skip that. Make sure you attack, make sure it stays that HP. If you heal it, you're fucked. Especially if you're trying to negate that whole thing. So that's for 95. 95, keep in mind, you want to negate this, you wait till 90, okay? For 85, if you want to negate this, you wait till 75. You have to wait all the way to 75. This is the big one. You have to wait until 75. So the other one is at 60. If you want to negate 60, you have to wait until 55. But you have to keep in mind that 55 does fills up all charged diamonds, so it will actually steal Ogi at a time. And most of the time, you kind of, it's kind of like really based on what kind of characters that your raid member has. Sometimes it'll be at overdrive, sometimes it'll be at what's that, during overdrive as well. So it kind of depends on that. So anyway, those are the 3 main big Ogis or triggers that you need to keep in mind. But if you're the guy that goes through labors, you don't take any of this. These 3 things, you don't take any. You don't take anything. You will not take anything. You will totally negate all of this, okay? If you are that guy that triggers the labor, this 95, 85, and 60 will not happen for you. It will never happen for you, okay? So yeah, keep in mind, 95 you want to skip is 90, 85 trigger you want to skip is 75, 60 you wait for 55. So this is the main ones you want to go through. Okay, so then the other thing is that once you're probably at like around 85, say for example, if you're already 85, most of the time the wing is already dead. And once the wing dies, right, when the wing is dead, usually before it dies, you kind of want to have the Paradise Lost done, because if the wing is dead, you can't get Paradise Lost done, which is the 11 labor. If you want to get Paradise Lost done, you need to have you just basically read this. As long as you have unchallenged to your entire party, which is, like say for example, Alex S2, Zoe's conjunction, blah blah blah. You have any other, say for example, like characters that has the all ally sub or whatever shit like that. That works too, but make sure they can actually survive, stuff like that. But yeah, you want to take at least one guy takes Paradise Lost, so you can actually trigger the whole to clear this 11 labor, because 11 labor is probably one of the most annoying ones because it dispels you. It always removes 2 buffs from your characters. So before you kill off the wing, you definitely want to do that, and make sure that Paradise Lost will only trigger during overdrive. I kind of forgot to mention that earlier, but Paradise Lost only triggers during overdrive. If it's not overdrive, it will never happen. And both diamonds will be full, right? So yeah, that's the thing you need to keep in mind. So usually, yeah, most of the time, based on my runs, once you hit like 85 trigger or some shit, by then it will always die already. But there are times where I probably hit like 70, if like around 70 or 75, the wings are still alive. So But if you reach there, right, if 75 is still alive, it will cast this atheism thing, whatever you pronounce. So basically what that does is that he will do, where is that stupid thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. I was like looking for the special icon thing. So if the wing is still alive, right, and then you went through 75, so what happens, you cast this thing which has all this thingy, but most of the time you always have this. So what happens is that the whatever element it shows, that specific element needs to nuke for 10 million in order for you to clear this whatever shield, basically. Because you need to do 10 million in one turn in order for you to remove this altogether. If not you have to wait for like 5 minutes or some shit. You just need to have that one person to go through. So if, like, say for example this one, you need a water guy to do 10 million in one turn. If not, you have to wait for 5 minutes, and I don't think you really want to do that in most cases. That or this one, when this happens, it will also you can only negate it when there's 6 or more debuffs. But usually don't see this already there, because most of the time you already have like Anira S1 and your Urius stuff. So this mostly is usually not there. This one is the one that you have to take care of. So yeah, keep that in mind. But before the wing dies, you have to keep in mind that if the standard Ogi is always at, where's the Axiom Apocalypse? Yeah, this one. So if the wing is still alive, it will always do this. During overdrive, like standard overdrive, not the Paradise Lost one, he'll always do this. So it will always do this as his normal Ogi during overdrive. If the wing is dead, it will go into this one, Orbital Blackness. So usually this one is actually quite kind of like whatever, basically. This thing, if you're really afraid, you don't really need like much stuff. You just have flanks and you're pretty much set already. Because honestly, Orbital Blackness is kind of like the least painful Ogi, I think. It does feel like it's the least painful one in the entire raid itself. It's like the least lethal one compared to the rest, basically. But yeah, I think that covers majority of the one that I kind of want to mention, which is, like I said, the first one is Paradise Lost, full charge diamonds on both, overdrive only. Then the other one would be 70% on the wing, 50% on the wing. Then the main body is 95, 85, and then 60. So these are the first few stuff that you want to keep in mind. These are the probably like majority of the runs tend to die during this entire stuff I just mentioned. Because honestly, after the 60 one, it's pretty straightforward. It's very, very straightforward. Once you kill off the wing and then 60, once you go through 60, everything after that is super straightforward. I know a lot of runs I've been to always dies before then. Like whenever someone fucks up or whatever, it's usually the one before then. You don't really have to worry too much after that. So anyway, one of the main reasons why you want to have different racial stuff, because this has already been mentioned plenty of times, you don't need me to tell you. Like, you want to have a different racial thing is because of his 25% trigger, which is he triggers Golfer's Arc. So basically what Golfer's Arc does is that he will kill off, where the hell is it? He will kill off any duplicates race in your party. So let's say, for example, if you're using if you're like or something, you're using Vera and then you're also using Zoe, right? Because both of them are primals. So what happens is that he will kill off whatever is in the latter position. So say, for example, if your position 2 is Zoe and then your position 4 is Noah, right? For example, your Noah will die. So basically what happens is that you won't take damage. This 25% trigger, you will not take damage, but it will just immediately just kills off your character. Immediately kills off your character. And it will not allow you to summon anymore. And then you have whatever this as well. You can be revived, whatever shit. Who cares? Nobody cares about that. But yeah, you can summon and your duplicates will die. So this one you have to just make sure that you have enough counters to go through. If you're taking a counter, you need to be verbal to everyone. If you do not have enough counters, and then you have to take a counter, you should stay behind, okay? This usually applies to like the wind guy if they're doing the CAT strat and stuff like that, right? So, okay. The other thing is that, like he says here, it only affects the races outside of MC. MC is exempted. It will not count MC. MC is usually considered as unknown, but MC is kind of like exempted for this. So anyone after MC basically. So if you have like Doraf, Erun, and Human, you're fine. Or like unknown, if you have another character that's like unknown, and then you have Doraf, and then have Erun again, you'll be fine as well. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to like character comps or whatever, you can always ask in Discord or just come on stream or some shit. So this is what he does at 25. So usually you kind of want to have usually the wind guy stays behind or whatever. But if you have like specific setups for wind that allows you to go through, then sure, go through, I suppose. But you have to keep in mind that the triggers after 25 can be dangerous. So if you're not ready for it, it can be another problem. So that's why a lot of cases that if you have been on my stream and stuff, and you're watching like my previous Faa-san runs or whatever shit, we always tend to ask like whether everyone's ready for 25 or not. Because there are a lot of times where they're not ready for 25 and they need to take extra turns. You should stop and allow your other raid members to take extra turns. Because if not, they can actually, if they go through 25 and then you just don't have that whatever stuff to negate the upcoming triggers, which I'm gonna get shortly. Yeah, then he's pretty much fucked then. So he can't really help you or whatever shit like that, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Then another thing he does provide as well is this Heaven's Floodgates field effect. Basically what that does is similar to the Akasha one. It just speeds up the turns rather. So yeah, you just kind of need to play around with this if you think that if you kind of want to refresh your skills and shit, right? You can actually take this in consideration as well. It's kind of like a 50-50 thing if you kind of want to have like 3 turns pass by fast or some shit like that. So yeah. Another thing is that, yeah, it does remove all these debuffs and stuff. And yeah, the wind guy with debuffs, blah blah blah, and shit like that. Very straightforward. The other one you want to go through is at 20. Where's 20? Where's 20? Yeah, 20. There is it. The next trigger is at 20. So 20 trigger, it will do Axiom Apocalypse. If you remember what I mentioned earlier, the Axiom Apocalypse, it's very different now. Because from what I recall, every single time you go through this Go First Arc thing, what happens is that Faa-san has like he kind of feels like he just went Super Saiyan or some shit basically. It feels like it doesn't really mention like that much here, but like from what I noticed, he goes Super Saiyan and his attacks just like the power of his attacks just increase a fuck ton. Similar to like, say for example, like Atoma Baha, when he's like 10% or less or some shit, he automatically he has his damage increase like crazy and stuff. So this Axiom Apocalypse can be very, very painful, the 20 and 15% trigger. So usually what you want, you must have like the so-called same damage negation I mentioned earlier for those triggers. So if you do not have that, then you just sit behind, I guess. So that's why most of the time when it's post 25, it's very, very straightforward. You just you just burst it down. That's one of the main reasons why it's very standard for the wind guy to stay behind, because you know if you're using the CAT strat, you're usually saving your CAT S4 for this specific part. You want to wait all the way until 10%. Because if you're using CAT with Urius, they're both humans. So if you go through 25, your Urius is dead most of the time, or CAT is dead, and then you can't do the nuke anymore. So you kind of want to save that up. So if you're doing that strat, then yeah. So you're just nuking it down, and the triggers are relatively straightforward, right? So 20%, 15% is Axiom Apocalypse. 10%, the next or almost final trigger, 10% trigger is Paradise Lost. So what happens is that at 10%, he will remove all buffs, or debuffs on himself. So you need to retrigger debuffs again. So usually just let Urius do his thing. If your fire guy has Anira S1 up already, then you just do that, okay? Then you do keep in mind, for this specific 10% onwards, the Paradise Lost, right? you can negate these with 100% damage cut. So for example, if you have a combination of if you have the elemental switch and you have element cut. So for example, if you have like say prime example is like Athena S1. If you have Athena S1 and if you have Langs as well, you can negate Paradise Lost altogether. So you just need to have 100% cut, not like the one before where the full charge diamonds on the wing and the main body, where it only works if you have full elemental cut or unchallenged. It's not 100% damage cut, it will work. No, that doesn't happen. But if you have like now, if you have 100% cut, it will work. So yeah, keep that in mind, okay? And then the rest, it does it at 3% as well. It's the same thing, but like honestly at this point it's just all about just bursting it down. If you're not able to burst it down, then well, I'm sorry, just try again some other time. Hey! Or just get good. Forehead. Yeah. So that's honestly pretty much about the whole run, I guess. That's pretty much about it. There's really not much else to say. It's kind of like the whole thing. So this is like my crash course on Faa, I suppose. So seriously, it's honestly not that hard. It's like the few things. So let me go down to like the whole conclusion, like the things you need to keep in mind. Like number one, again, don't get full diamonds on both of them. Don't mash delay at the start. You only want to mash delay on the main body after it first triggers or some shit. Then the other one is the triggers, which is on 70, 50 on the wing, and then the main body is 95, 85, 60. The main ones then 25, 20, 15, 10, 3, blah blah blah. So just keep in mind all those stuff. So then the other one is that you want to make the wing Ogi as fast as possible so you can get this thing gone and stuff like that. If not, if you're in a specific situation, so special situation is that when you have the wing still there, it usually goes away if the wing dies, but there are times where it just stays there. I don't know. I know our resident M dude here experienced that yesterday, but yeah, usually it tends to go off when the wing dies, but I don't know. There are times where the wing just stays there. I don't know, but yeah, you kind of want to at least try to get the wing to Ogi very, very quickly. Okay, so and the other thing is that the other tip I can give you, like if remember triggering labors are very, very important. You need to have like all of your raid members to be ready for it, right? If they are not ready, make sure you switch to the main body as well. So the thing that you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to do too much damage. So you just don't nuke too much. If it's close to 50, the wing is close to 50, you don't want to nuke too much. Just auto or whatever shit. Just make sure it stays at 51 or some shit if everyone's not ready. And for the main body, you kind of want to push it only up to 95 max. If you somehow not ready like us or whatever, you know, like suffering from too much damage or whatever shit because we are so fucking strong or whatever stuff, then we just go through 95. Say fuck it and go through 95, right? But yeah, I'm pretty sure majority of the times if you're not at that specific point yet, I'm fairly certain you never reach that point. You won't really suffer that. So you don't be too harsh on yourself. But yeah, anyway, it's fairly simple. It's really all about you getting the hang of the triggers. Trust me, this raid may be the hardest raid in the game. Still currently the hardest raid in the game. Yes, it can be very scary. It can be very it probably gives you a lot of pressure and shit. But honestly, it's all about getting used to the triggers. Once you get used to the triggers on how the raid works, you can improv and stuff like that by yourself on what you need to do in the raid. Everything it just goes into like your experience, right? Because honestly, you may spend hundreds of hours watching this video over and over again. Thanks if you do. But you may probably not learn anything if you have not tried the raid yourself. So I really suggest you to try it out yourself. Try to learn the hang of it. You can just probably join pubs or something in the pub co-op or whatever shit. Or if you're waiting for your crew, then you just set up your crew, whatever stuff like that. Just do it together. with your buddies or whatever, I can assure you it can be really, really fun. This raid is still probably still relatively fun for me to do until today. It's one of the main reasons why I still do it on stream and stuff, and help new players and stuff if they need help or whatever. Get to know the whole raid or some shit. Yes, I can help you, but only on specific times when I feel like doing. When I'm not doing, then I'm sorry. But yeah, we do try to help get a hang of it. But yeah, end of the day, it's just all about getting the hang of this raid. So anyway, thank you. Hopefully find this crash course helpful, even though I think this crash course is already like 40 minutes long. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, and good luck to your runs, and make sure you don't die. Yeah, just don't die in this run.